What's up, everybody? It is Limbo from deltiasgaming.com. I'm so glad that you decided to click on another video of ours. If you're wondering who the heck this is, why this voice doesn't sound like maybe you've heard it sound in the past, I'd love for you to click on this video right here that will explain everything to you. But other than that, we're going to jump right into the video for today. I personally have been diving very heavily into Elder Scroll Onlines for the past few weeks. I probably have close to 40 hours in like the last 2 to 3 weeks alone. Literally, I've been playing nonstop, and I wanted to get some tips from you guys for me, but I also thought it'd be a great idea to share some of these tips with you guys, the community. So all of these tips come from the comments on our past videos. We picked out tips that the community left for us to get to you, so let us know what you think of these tips. If you love them, if you hate them, make sure you keep it civil, but also leave your own tips in the comments down below. We may do another video just like this for you guys. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe. Be on the lookout for more videos each week. Check out our streams Sunday to Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern. That's Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. Australian Eastern, if that's where you're at, because that's where I'm at. But other than that, let's jump right into the tips for today. So a couple days ago, I put the call out. We were looking for tips from the Elder Scrolls Online community here at deltiasgaming.com, and so many of you guys turned out in the comments down below. So I've arranged them in probably like 5 to 6 kind of little subsections of tips relating to the players here. They'll pop up on the screen as we're chatting through them, and hopefully all of them make total sense to you guys, but I will do my best to read through them. And again, thank you guys for the community members who actually put these tips on there. We really appreciate it. The first groups of tips and tricks that we got are for kind of the new players and kind of just general player advice and mindsets for you guys to have as you're going through the game. So the first few that we got were all focused on making sure that you're having fun when you play the game. We got one comment right here from Awesomality-ness. These names are going to be very hard, but I will do my best. They said, rule number 1 is to play what you want and have fun. You'll see lots of guides telling you to do your daily writs, Undaunted, World Boss Quests, etc. But if you force yourself into it, you'll get burnt out for no reason. You can do almost anything while never accessing some of these systems. Don't want to grind scrying to level 9 to get mythics? Then don't do it. Find a different gear set that works and come back when you have time to kill it. Same for all of crafting. Sure, it really helps, but if you're forcing yourself to grind out level 50 on every skill and then 87 size shards for them and a bunch of research to complete everything, you will have a bad time. That's a great tip. Focus on the fun. DK65 had a tip similarly. They said, my tip for every player, remember, it's a hobby, not a second job. Do not feel obligated to chase the FOMO of a live service game like ESO. Do not burn yourself out. Just play at your own pace and have fun. That's the reason we do this. Video games only exist to have fun. A lot of you guys commented that one of the best parts of ESO is all of the stuff that you can do. And so many of you guys said that we should just be taking our time, not rushing through the content, and have fun. Level slowly, take your time learning the game. We got one comment here from SWardle89. They said, if I could go back and give my newbie self some advice, it would be not to power level slowly. Pick up sky shards, do the story and zone quests, and properly learn how to light attack weave so I don't have to unlearn the bad habits I developed and relearned recently. It's not a sprint, but a marathon. If you come out of the gate sprinting, you will get winded and wash out. Overall, this is not a linear progression MMO. It's more overwhelming to play it like it is. Oh, I totally agree. I'm having fun, taking my time. I'm also focusing on level, so I'm trying to be efficient, but I'm also having so much fun just playing the storyline and doing the things that I enjoy. Chibu, that might be how you say it, Chboo8346 also agreed. They said, stop rushing through content. One of my favorite quests was simply helping some NPC fall in love. Oh, how beautiful, how sweet. Bagel Bandit had some tips just like this. They said, find out what playstyle you like best for what type of content you're after, whether that's PvP or PvE. Jumping ahead, they say, take your time. This game isn't made to master in a day. Have some fun, gain some champion points, get skill points, and you'll be just fine. Brenton Wickham said the same thing. My little tips as a beginner or lowbie, do you in the beginning. It's your game, your story, your experience. Questing, exploring, getting immersed in Tamriel is more important than rushing to grinding gear, farming, and dummy humping. Whatever that means, we're probably going to get demonetized for that one. For a little later in the game, they recommend the normal Maelstrom Arena as an excellent way to grind out champion points while trying your luck with weapon drops. XP potions and scrolls will be your best friends sometimes. So guys, remember, take your time, enjoy the game. It's here for fun. Don't rush through everything if you don't know what you're doing. Learn the game. That will be your best option to keep your attention and keep you playing long term. Lucas_11 commented in a similar vein and said, this game is hard, lots of grinding and lore. I'm a huge Elder Scrolls fan, so I play a lot of zone story and missions that I can do by myself. But their tip is, most mythic items are not worth it. You can have a great build and never do scrying or excavation. So again, in the same vein, make sure you're doing what you enjoy. There's tons of stuff to be done that you don't need to have the highest kind of meta, DPS, whatever build that you need to just have fun and play with some friends. 2Gen Gaming 4911 has a great tip for people who are either starting out or maybe returning. The first thing that they're going to do is recommend that you be willing to try different things. This is with characters, classes, alliances, etc. ESO now has 11 years of content, so it can be overwhelming on what what class to play, what zone story to work on, etc. It's easy, or at least it was for them, to create a character and then not really vibe with them, but also not want to start over and waste time. So you end up not really being happy with your gameplay. So don't be afraid to try new things. You might go through 2 or 3 race and class combos before you find the one you like. Maybe the vampire storyline is more your style, but you're not so big on dragons. If you are in the middle of a storyline or a zone and you're not feeling it, just go somewhere else. You don't have to clear your plate before you can get up. I usually always clear my plate before I get up, but I understand the sentiment. User Awesomalityness came back with a couple more tips. We're gonna see them pop up a few more times, but this one is great. This one is kind of for, again, those beginning players or maybe people who are returning after a long time away. There are some settings and some things that you should probably be aware of that will make your gameplay a lot easier. They started out with this. On console, hold in the thumbsticks to tap target. Limbo from the future here. This tip is not quite working for me. I don't know if I'm getting it wrong. So Awesomalityness, if you're watching this, maybe you can explain it a little bit more, but I actually don't think the tap target thing works, so sorry about that. They also said if you hold down on the D-pad and you pull back the camera stick, so that's usually the right stick on a console, that will help you zoom your camera. And you can actually adjust in or out with that. They also recommend that you head into your options menu and you fix a few options right away. I did these immediately. First, you're gonna wanna set the quick cast ground abilities to on. This is gonna make it so that you press the button one time and that ability will fire wherever you're looking at. They recommend that you change enemy AoE, that's where the enemy damage or anything is going to be, to hot pink. Get away from that red color, it's too hard to see. If you make it really, really bright pink, it's gonna be easy enough for you to get out of any kind of damage that's coming your way. And lastly, they said set the third person FOV to maximum. That way when you do zoom out all the way with that down on the D-pad using the camera thing, you're gonna have tons of information on the screen, you're gonna be able to see a lot more. I think that's a great call. Next up, we had some great tips from you guys about the combat, whether that's playing in the meta or trying to find your own enjoyable playstyle. Some of these tips were for PvE, some were for PvP, but we're gonna go through these right now. The first tip we're gonna look at, it kind of spent some time delving a little bit deeper into some of the tips I gave in our last video on what some of the tips that I found as a returning player in 2025 might be. Awesomalityness returned for even more explanation on this, and we started out with some of the combat flow that we want to talk about right here. We're gonna read here. For combat flow, skills and light attacks almost never vary on cast time. They're not dependent on weapon. We mentioned in one of our videos that some of the skills might be dependent, but it's not actually the weapon type. There are 4 types of abilities. Channeled, things like the Jesus beam that you see that just go out from you, the cast time instant, which is most every ability, and then cast time X, where that X will be the number how long it takes to cast a certain skill. Things like snipe with the bow, uppercut with 2-hand, they have a certain amount of time. They vary in cast time, but they work with an upfront cast time before the ability's cost is taken and the ability is then cast. Then finally, there are continuous permanent skills, things like Sorcerer Pets, the Warden Bear, the Banner Bearer, things that are kind of turn it on and forget it. But they made sure to explain that they all function identically in terms of speed and such. So with 0 passives and 0 skills purchased, a 2-handed weapon, which will attack the same as staff or bow, all light and heavy functionality is exactly the same. It's where the passives and active skills come in that actually matter. Great tip here, Awesomalityness. They then followed that up with what might be a very controversial tip for some of you guys, but I think I agree with it. They said this, Rule 2, following the same theme, is to find whatever balances you want and follow it. What they mean is you can definitely have a sword and a shield, 7 pieces of light armor, be an Argonian damage dealer, and still hit 100,000 DPS. Is it in the meta right now? Absolutely not. It's a pain. You'll need top of the line gear, near perfect rotation on your skills, maxed out passives, and perfect champion distribution. The closer you get to playing the meta, the easier you'll be able to hit those numbers and survive hard trials and complete the tough dungeons. But you also lose your character identity the closer you get to the meta. They, for instance, have 16 damage dealing characters on their main platform, and they all vary from gear and subclass and ability setups. That way it doesn't get stale to play. They say that the core point of this game is not to tunnel vision on the very first build that you find online and not experiment with anything else. Figure out what content you want to do. Learn what pieces of your class work well together. Swap around subclassing and spellcrafting until you find what works for you and for the content you're running. And to wrap this up well, they say the perfect build for a trial dummy or single target DPS will not be perfect for another fight. They give some examples. So when you're fighting one boss, you may need to have a single target focus build. But when you're fighting in another dungeon or another trial, you might need something more that focuses on AoE, so you're taking out multiple enemies. One build is not going to be perfect for everything, so feel free to experiment, have fun, figure out how your character plays. By this time, you probably have a pretty good understanding of your character, and this tip from Turk Movement comes in pretty well. They say this might not be a beginner tip, maybe more of a mid-game tip. Try to aim to complete the Maelstrom Arena after you're at 160 champion points. It is far from easy. It will require you to have good armor sets, weapons, weapons and jewelry, but once you've completed it, you will genuinely come out a much better player with a deeper understanding of the combat mechanics. Like I said, it's more of a mid-game thing, but it's good to keep your mind and try to build up to. The Maelstrom Arena seems like an awesome place to be working on your skills as a player, to learn the game, learn how your character works. This is a great one. Remember that tip from Britton Wickham earlier that said the Maelstrom Arena is a great way to grind out those champion points and try your luck with getting new weapon drops, so make sure you check this out at a certain point. We didn't get too many tips for PvP, but Nekaro here had a great one that I think you guys want to see. As a PvP vet, here's a tip for people just getting into PvP. Learn to medium attack weave. It triggers off-balance stuns and will proc a whole ton of things that ask for heavy attack. They also auto-lock and do slightly more damage than a light attack whilst taking roughly the same amount of time on the animation. To do them, hold the trigger or button for a split second longer than a light attack to start the heavy attack animation. Then, as the heavy attack animation starts, let go. Here's a small list of things that can proc faster than a fully charged heavy attack will. Off-balance stuns, Martial Lock Monster Set, the Deadlands Assassin, Frenzied Momentum. Genuinely a game changer for getting into PvP. They're saying if you hold your light attack for slightly longer, you'll still get the benefits of a heavy attack without having to finish out that animation. This is great in PvP where you're fighting for any kind of damage that you can. Next up, we had quite a few tips from people on how to level up your characters, what skills to focus on, and something really interesting that they call focusing on your ults. I know this from other MMOs where you make multiple characters even if you're not planning on using them. Dead by Derek had a great one here. Make a few characters that you think you'll want to try later, then go and park them near a stable every day. Just log in and start training your mount speed, so when you're ready to use those characters, you will have saved a ton of time already leveling up your stuff. They would also recommend making a few characters at least and getting them to the point where you can do dungeons. Slot a couple of heroes and a restoration staff and boom, super easy daily dungeons since you can queue as a healer, which is always in need, and also the dungeon will be very easy since you're a low level. This is a good way to start stacking transmutes early because you will need a lot of them. They go on to say you really want to have multiple characters in this game. There is a lot of benefits. As a starting player, if you would like to make some easy money, make a few alts, park them in the newest zone as the rewards you get there are usually selling for a decent amount, and do your dailies for that zone with them every single day. It's a very good way to make super easy money. This is a great one, Dead by Derek. And this was probably the only tip that I hadn't heard somewhere else or seen in another video that I've been watching to try and get caught up on the game. This one came from Vicious Violet LV. They said, I don't know if anyone mentioned this yet, but get your alchemy crafting leveled up so you can get the medicinal use passive. When you use 3 skill points in this skill line, any potions you use will last 30% longer. I also put 6 skill points into provisioning for Gourmand and Connoisseur, but those aren't as important as medicinal use. I hadn't heard this one and I haven't been focusing on alchemy, but now I'm trying to spend a bit more time there so that way I can level this passive up and make sure all the potions I use will last even longer. Great tip, Vicious Violet. We already read this tip, but I thought it fit great here. Going back to a tip from earlier from Swardo89, in the middle of their tip, they said, if you're focusing early on properly learning how to fight, things like light attack weaving, you don't have to unlearn them later and try and correct those bad habits. I thought this was a great tip. Focus on learning those light attack weaving and even medium attack weaving like we talked about earlier, where you're canceling those heavy attacks. I thought this was a great tip that kind of fit in here as well. Next up, a lot of you guys gave us tips that were focused on things like crafting and the economy in the game, trying to make sure that your character and your account stay up to date and are able to afford the things that you want to. The first one comes from Jeremiah Wigton 3295, who said, keep your crafting research slots full. This was a great one. This is something that I actually spent a lot of time focusing on. Even as we were out of town last week while our house was getting fixed, I was logging into Xbox Cloud Gaming so that I could get on Elder Scrolls for just enough time to make sure that I was running to the research places and continuing researching new weapons and armor. This is a huge one. 2Gen Gaming 4911 from a tip from earlier had a second part that said, this tip is for newbies early on, and I mean early, like levels 5 to 10. Start learning the crafting skills and get certified so you can do writs. Many people will say they wait until they are further into the game and have more gold and such to craft, or that they don't want to do it at all. You really don't have to max anything out. Even if you're doing the beginning daily writs, you'll still get a few thousand in gold, things like maps and such to sell for a good amount, so do them. And if you're like them and you're whining, you can go to the add-ons and pick up the Lazy Writ add-on collector. You can thank me later. Then they add an evil grin. Their profile picture looks like a cat, so picture a cat with an evil grin, I guess. We're going to talk more about add-ons a little bit later. A similar tip comes from Roy TT, where they said, the biggest tip I could give is to get a trade price add-on. TTC or ESO Hub shows prices on items from the player market. You know that blueprint you found when you were out looting? Yeah, the one you sold to an NPC trader for 24 gold? That one might have been worth millions of gold on the guild trader. This is something I wasn't aware of. I read through this add-on several times and didn't quite understand what it meant until I figured it out. Some items that drop in the game are worth next to nothing to merchants in the game, but if you go to a guild trader and list it for other players to buy, it could be worth thousands, tens of thousands, apparently even hundreds of thousands to someone else in the game. So make sure you have this add-on, that way you know you're not selling anything that might be valuable later. Awesomality continued talking about add-ons, also mentioning the ones that make sure that you're not selling things that could be sold on the guild trader, but mentioning a few more. Things like the Lazy Rick Crafter, we already talked about, Sky Shard and lore books on your map, that way you can track them down way easier. I think these are great options. Looking through the add-ons, figuring out what you might want, there are great ones available like mini maps, things that make the daily Rick crafting easier, things that will repair your items for you if you need. There's tons of add-ons. Just make sure you look through them, see how many downloads they get, and see if it's worth adding to you. This next tip was pretty unique, and it may help some of you guys set up your game plan for what your character is actually going to play like anywhere. Scruffasax here said, tip for anyone, make a thief character, get the class right, it should be a Nightblade, and use that character to play through the story. Make them your crafter. Basically, they should be your everything character. You'll make tons of gold while still having a powerful character to play with. Then, go pickpocket nobles in Wayrest to make your first million easy. I might be outdated. They might be talking about Wayrest specifically, but I think having a Nightblade character who plays a bit as a thief that has access to things like invisibility, maybe you're doing the Dark Brotherhood or the Thieves Guild quests early where you can be robbing and killing people for money, this is a great option. It does seem like this character has a few trait lines and skills that make the game a bit easier to play, so I think that's what they're meaning. At least have one Nightblade character, because it kind of makes portions of this game a little bit easier. That might make it easier for you to get gold as well. Maybe you guys can clarify a little bit more down in the comments what kind of character you like to play that helps you get the most out of it. Lastly, a lot of you guys focus more on the community and social aspects of the game, which I thought was great. Jumping back to a tip by Dead by Derek, they finished up by saying, lastly, I would say the most important tip is to join a guild and make some friends. This is a social game, and the community, from my experience, has been very welcoming and extremely helpful to new players. I totally agree. One of the first things I did when I returned to playing was join about 4 guilds that were all pretty active, and it's been awesome. There's people always chatting, the Discords are active, so they're always up for helping you out with things. You can ask them questions. It's a great option. Bagel Bandit agreed, saying, get into a good guild that will help you with any questions you might have. This is a great option. This is an MMO, massively multiplayer online. That means you're supposed to be playing with tons of other people. Try it out. A great tip from JS9720 said, don't spend any money in the Crown Store. 90% of it is a scam. It can either be obtained in the game or it will be given away later on. Fortunately, I didn't purchase the scribing altar. Very good for them. The other 10%, you can definitely enjoy the game to its fullest without. So, I went to ask, what are some things that you guys do recommend spending those ESO crowns on? Which Dead by Derek responded to, in my opinion, the best things to buy in the shop are the Banker and Deconstruction Merchant allies. Those are the helpers that you can buy in the ESO store, which allow you to summon a little helper like a Banker or a Merchant or a Deconstructor that you can get rid of things when you're in the middle of the game so you don't have to leave and travel back to a town or a guild hall or your house or something. Great option to have these things carried around with you. Our last tip, which I think was a big hit, came from PRX Thistle Legacy Content, which they said, the #1 tip for new players, stop picking fights with the guards. Or don't. It's really entertaining. If you guys want to go and get whooped up by the people standing outside of the towns, be my guest. Well, there you have it, guys. That was close to like 20-something tips from the community for new and returning players to ESO. Some of them were focused on you guys who might have been playing for a little bit longer. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you leave your tips in the comments down below. We might make another video just like this. Please like and subscribe to the video, and also be sure to be on the lookout for more videos coming soon. We're going to be talking about new games and new things that we're going to be playing. It's awesome. Make sure you join us for the stream Sunday to Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern. That's Monday to Friday at 8 a.m. Australian Eastern if you're on my side of the world. We'll see you guys there. Thanks so much. Bye.